What a day.
I know, right?
How would I join in from my laptop?
Oh,
Facebook Live. So how would I?
you'll see it. I just hit. All right. Hi, everybody. So you may just be tuning in. We'll give you a couple of minutes. It is almost 1 o'clock. Michael, do you see the Facebook post?
I do.
So just share that.
There we go.
There you go.
Shared. Look at me go.
Whoa. Oh, so you're going to want to turn that off.
Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges.
Super excited. So I'm excited to share. I have a bunch of things, and I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about your investment and what's going on in New York.
Oh, well, these days there's not a whole lot going on there.
I know, it's very, very interesting market that we're in.
Yeah, for sure. So, but I'm so excited because things are still moving and grooving where you are.
Right.
And there's nothing more than I want to do during this period than to educate consumers wherever they might be about opportunities out there. So whether people are thinking about buying or selling, maybe they want to relocate. I've heard of a lot of people moving out of Manhattan for obvious reasons.
Right.
A lot of people who have maybe lost their jobs, who have lost a lot of money in the stock market, planning on, things to do with the cash that they're sitting on instead of putting it in the stock market. They just need the education. And so this group is meant to, these conversations are meant to really, educate people about that. So I'm so thrilled that you are joining me and that, and that we could hopefully get you some business and also educate some of our consumers about the opportunities. So it is 1:01 on the dot. So why don't we jump right in? So as long as we've got all the technology going, I feel pretty good about this. Michael, do you need me to do anything with, I see you're also there on your computer. So do I need to let you in as well, or you'll let me know?
Whenever you're ready, I'd love to share some information, but I don't need to be on the computer just yet.
So we'll do that later. All right.
Perfect.
So Michael, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Mike Frank. I'm a realtor here in Baltimore, Maryland. I live just outside of the city. And one of the things I love about Baltimore is just everything happening. What's going on in our city, what's going on in our area, and being just so close to Philadelphia and Philadelphia and Washington gives us the opportunity to just explore. Being in the ideal market in Baltimore is just so great because there's so many different markets for people to fit into. We have a great first-time home buyer opportunity because our price is so affordable. There's a lot of grants and down payment assistance programs for those people in our market. And then the investment market is obviously tremendously hot because of the rental market here in Baltimore. I think there's something like 660,000 residents of Baltimore City, but there's got to be millions of people that are residing in the city, renting on a short-term lease, and landlords that are profiting. So we have a number of landlords that own everything around the country, from condos in downtown to residential homes, townhomes, row homes, and there's just an opportunity for everybody. So it's really exciting.
That's really cool. So that brings a lot of different kinds of people to your market. So
it does.
What, who's moving down there? What is bringing people down there? I guess that's better.
I'd say the biggest things that bring people to Baltimore are the universities and the colleges that surround our area. So we have Towson University, which is far and away the largest, but also Johns Hopkins University. We have University of Maryland, we have Loyola, we have University of Baltimore, there's UMBC. There's just so much going on around the city that creates opportunity. And that doesn't even include some of our smaller schools like Morgan State or Coppin State, which are located inside of the city lines. I think majority of people that come to Baltimore come for school. They end up staying for the opportunity. There's a big tech industry here. There's a lot of small businesses that are coming up from the healthcare industry, partnering with Johns Hopkins. We've had a lot of tenants even staying in some of our units as short-term rentals while they're starting their tech industry jobs because there's just uncertainty and they're paying a premium. I mean, we're talking 10 and 12% over market cost because they know that they're not a long-term tenant, but they've been great tenants because they come with great qualifications.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I would love to hear, because you are in a market, and I think of all the people that I'm talking to, you are probably one of the only ones who's in a market that kind of does revolve around the schools. And for the foreseeable future, at least for now, the students are not on campus, right?
Right.
We hope that they'll be able to go back on campus, but what are you hearing about what might happen if the students, and this is like obviously not a long-term thing, but I think all the universities are trying to figure out how they can go more virtual. Obviously they're missing an experience, but
Right.
if that happens, then what's the draw? And what's the pivot plan?
I think the biggest school that's going to impact is probably Towson. Towson is our largest university. University of Maryland, of course, but they're a little bit farther, closer to Washington, D.C. But Towson University is our largest on-campus resident housing. Johns Hopkins, University of Baltimore, Coppin, Morgan, those students are not residing on campus. They're actually residents of the community attending school. So it's going to be interesting how the community impact comes when perhaps those students decide not to renew their lease. But what we're actually anticipating is this is probably going to be the market where people start to get concerned about their investment. And that's when we want our investors to have the information to jump on that opportunity, right? You just want to be empowered so that long-term, over the last 40 years, the greatest investment has been real estate. I mean, that's indisputable, right? So in the long term, over the next 40 years, are you going to wait until the market hits a peak and then just dive in? Or are you going to take the opportunity of the history and realize that maybe today is going to be a little bit of a downswing, but in a year or 2 years, people are going to go back to school because of exactly what you're saying. The experience of having it, the experience of living in a major metropolitan like Baltimore, rental market's going to be fine.
So what are you experiencing now with those clients that are calling you, primarily those looking for investments? Are they jumping right now? Are they waiting? Are your owners holding? Like what's the feel?
We've had a couple people that have, especially coming from New York, a couple families where their students, their young students, maybe a first or a second year student looking for an investment opportunity. And it's been weird because for the first couple of weeks, they were like, well, we can't come and look at houses. So it was postpone. But last weekend, I had a video conference with a client. It was about an hour and a half, and we went from one house to the next and to the next. And I literally walked them through the upstairs, the downstairs, the inside, the outside. And she's making an offer on a home because she knows the investment opportunity is there. She's got to buy something for her son in the next 3 months. Otherwise, he's not going to have a place to live because he is living in Towson. And so the opportunities presented itself for us to shift our business to accomplish the goal for our clients. I do think that there's going to be people that are going to be holding on to their investment. And I couldn't think more highly of those people because I think it's smart. But I also know that there's other agents in our market that are worried about things and they're frantic. And I want my clients to have the opportunity to pounce on that opportunity.
Yeah. So what is your inventory like? Like what kind of market are you in right now?
Definitely a little light on the inventory. I think that's fair to say everywhere across the board. We're light on the inventory. We're light on the buyers. I think in the last 2 weeks, we've seen a buyer response that's been heightened by comparison to the previous 3 weeks. We can see that just in our appointment schedule on a weekend. We're having 7 and 9 appointments in a day as compared to 3 weeks ago where we were looking at 2 or 3 appointments in a day for the very same property, right? I think that time will tell, but what we're going to anticipate happening is that we're going to have more homes coming to the market in the late June and July period where we may have seen those homes come to the market sooner, perhaps in May. It's definitely going to impact our market. We're definitely going to have a long-term residual, but I think that as we look long-term, our values and our expectations based on so many of the things that we've already talked about, we're not anticipating having a change in the market value.
Right. So before COVID, what was your market? Like mine was just starting to ramp up to like where people were finally starting to see eye to eye. Otherwise, you can definitely call it a buyer's market for the last 2 years.
Before COVID, and I think even during COVID, we're seeing the same market, which is that the best houses are attracting all of the buyers, and we're getting 2 and 3 and 5 offers. I mean, we had a listing that went live in February. We had 11 offers in 3 days.
Wow.
So that was a great listing. And the sellers did a great job of making that home appeal to the buyers that were coming through, right? For other homes that weren't quite as attractive, there's always this opportunity for a buyer to buy this project home. And those homes tend to sit on the market a little bit longer. The ones that are the most prepared to sell, it's almost like a seller's market. The ones that are a little bit more in need of work, maybe not as desirable, it's almost like a buyer's market. So it's interesting in our market with the inventory the way that it is, with the buyer pool the way that it is, to see that we sort of have a seller's market on one half of the business and sort of have a buyer's market on the other half of the business. And it just sort of seems to be the status quo here in Baltimore because we have so much opportunity that presents itself for a buyer because, again, of the travel, the commute, living just outside of the city and working downtown, or living in the downtown sector and even working in some of the suburban areas of the city, the metropolitan.
Yeah. And yesterday you were mentioning an area, I think we were talking about price points.
Right.
And do you want to cover those a little bit? I can't remember what the area was where you were like, this is a prime region to focus on for investors.
Yep. So there's 3 main communities in our downtown area, right? And forgive me, I know New York, but I don't know it as well as you do. But
it's okay.
To Soho and the East Village and the financial district, right? We have Federal Hill, extremely desirable area out on the peninsula down by Federal Hill, right? Known for the battle. We have Canton, which is on the opposite side of the harbor, and then Fells Point, sort of in between. Fells Point is the very historic community, cobblestone streets, waterfront district, very, very cute and touristy community. Canton is just one neighborhood down, and it's along the water. It's a very attractive area to live in. People like to be there because there's the large park. Of course, it's not Central Park, but it's our largest park in the downtown sector. So people like to have that for their animals and their walking and their exercise. But also there's the main strip of bars and restaurants, and then the waterfront on the opposite end of Canton. Gives people a really heightened desire to be in that area. So I was mentioning to you one of our clients that had bought a property about a half a block from the main kind of central drag, if you will, about 3 blocks from the water and 4 blocks south of the park. So that particular property they bought for $420,000, and it was a huge investment, but they put down a 20% down payment. So we're talking about $85,000. They invested about $20,000 into renovating what was previously a half bath into a full bath. And they converted this home to a rental space for 4 prospective tenants. They're collecting about $3,400 a month on that investment. So $3,400 a month on an all-in investment of about $435,000 is a pretty great return.
Yeah.
But the capital value is that equity is not going anywhere because they bought in the center of the most localized area in the city. So if they decided to liquidate that asset, it's still going to be worth $430,000. So not only are they getting their rental appreciation, but they're also getting their equity value back. And I think that there's a lot of market in Baltimore where people can choose what's more important to them, their rental appreciation on a monthly basis, or their equity play of getting a great qualified tenant and having a consistent basis of a high dollar income coming in over the course of 10 or 20 years. So that's the biggest question that we ask our investors is, what do you want to get out of this? And how much do you want to put into it? Because it's a direct correlation there.
Right. And would you say that you see people holding multiple properties, a larger portfolio, or, I guess larger being 2 or more,
Right.
or are most like those single kind of one-offs?
So our most common investor, most common, is a couple. He owns a home. She owns a home. They move into that one, and then they rent this one. That's our most common investor, right? Oftentimes, the idea of that couple is to turn into 2 or 3 or 4, but then they realize that they're moving, their forward momentum is now that they have to sell 1 or both of those homes in order to qualify for the new one. So our most common investor is a single unit owner, right? Or a 2-unit owner, but a single investment owner. But we also do have a number of investors that are in the process of growing their portfolio. I mean, my sphere of influence is a younger clientele in their mid-30s, roughly, my age, right? And so they're in the process of growing their portfolio. Some of our clients have 3 and 4, I would say, on average. We have a couple outstanding outliers that are at 12 and 15. I do have one client that has hundreds of properties around the country, and he uses Baltimore as kind of a melting pot for his money. But another investment strategy in Baltimore is the rehab strategy. And so he uses the opportunity to invest his cash to turn capital in Baltimore so that he can buy investments elsewhere. And it's a really smart way to go about it. So that's definitely something maybe for today, but maybe for another day too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Now, you said earlier on that you've got the 2 markets, and one of our friends said it's a tale of 2 markets, where you have those people who are looking for those turnkey opportunities, and then you have maybe the investors who are willing to do work, right? Now, in that kind of market, would you say that there's opportunities? Yesterday on a call with a colleague who's in Utah, he recommended that you should buy at about 15% under value.
Right.
Would you say that your prices are priced accordingly and that they're accepting offers like that, or it might be?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I would. I think that the biggest reason that buyers will stray away from those investment opportunities is for the fear of getting in over their head. Yeah. If it's a first-time buyer, maybe they're buying something for $240,000 that's really worth $275,000, but they don't know where the cash is going to come from to pay for the renovations. That's a big fear. Or the other concern is, well, once we start doing this, then the snowball rolls down the hill and then we don't know where to stop. I think for an investor, the really important thing is to understand that you're going to have those things happen. Whether you buy the beautiful, totally renovated house or you buy the rundown piece of junk, those sorts of things are going to snowball. And it's really a delicate line to identifying the professional that you choose to help you understand what that looks like. We had an opportunity last week to pick up a property for about $195,000. And the renovation cost was a huge question mark for my investor. He said, this is a bigger renovation than I've ever done. And so I'm going to look up the spreadsheet here because I have it in front of me.
Sure.
He was looking to invest almost about $195,000 in renovation cost, $194,000 in renovation cost. And
so that's the purchase price. Yeah,
basically $385,000 after you pay taxes, expenses, and fees.
Yeah. So is that how I'm worth that?
That particular one was looked at. We were looking between $495 and $520.
Okay.
So that's where we're coming back and we're saying, hey, there's a potential growth here. I mean, after all expenses paid at a $520,000 valuation, this particular client was going to be out of pocket $62,000, and his payoff was $98,881 if everything went to play.
Right.
And so you can see why some people would take that risk to grow their capital. It's just, what is your risk aversion, and finding a realtor that's going to help understand that and find you the right opportunity.
Right. And the right team, right? Like the right vendors. Was that a local buyer or was he elsewhere?
He's a semi-local buyer, lives about, let's say 50 minutes outside of the city. Not a downtown person, not somebody that's coming downtown all the time, just somebody that wanted to invest his money. The right team is key. So I want to be cautious how I say this, but I tell my clients very callously that if I am a jerk to you and you want to fire me, you can find anybody else. Somebody can sell the house. Let's not worry about that. If your bank is a jerk to you and charges you too many fees, you'll pay for it. You'll lose on your profit. But the real person that has the opportunity to completely ruin everything that you've set your foot on is your contractor. Hands down, no question, fall in love with them, but make sure your paperwork is right, because your contractor will ruin your numbers. I mean, we have one that's on the market right now, not as glamorous, but $185,000. And their renovation budget was $82,000. Their contractor spent $115,000. And I said, how did this happen? And my investor said, I don't know. And I went, oh my gosh, you brought the contractor. right? Like you have to trust the people that you're working with, and it's difficult. It's very difficult.
So you've got people that you can recommend in addition
100%.
to, I would imagine, property managers, correct?
100%. Property management companies are plentiful around our city. I even do property management for some of my clients as well. But I always want to give people multiple options. I want to give them 2 or 3 contractors, 2 or 3 property management companies. I'm not giving you another realtor. I'm the only one.
Right.
But I want to give people the opportunity to really fish out what's going to be the best fit for them so that they can make the decision, because I will put my neck on the line for anyone that I refer. But I never want people to feel like I'm forcing them to use contractor X or whatnot, because I want to make them feel confident in their ability to control their investment.
Sure, of course. So when we're talking about the area, let's start with the range of properties in terms of pricing. I don't know if that's on your other laptop, but let's talk like if you're a beginner, you're just looking to pick up a piece of property, maybe there's some programs that have very limited, you know, where you have to put very little money down. Where would you go? What potential return could we be looking at? And then kind of the range up to the higher end.
So I
just
think
the range, like I'm not going to hold you to it. Okay.
No, I think the return is directly correlated with the risk, right? There is a very low out of pocket cash investment opportunity, which is a renovation loan. So you could buy a property for $110,000 and put in a $60,000 renovation and build yourself a $170,000 house. That property might come out of pocket for something as low as $10,000 in cash. Total, I know that's crazy.
From both
because the loan pays for the renovation.
Right.
And the after renovation value could be as high as $220,000. And that's where the mortgage company is kind of collecting your equity, is they're saying, we're collateralizing the home, you're going to do the renovation, and we're going to collateralize this as a 80% value, right? Instead of putting down 20%, sorry if I'm going a little far, but instead of putting down 20% of your total investment of $34,000, you could put down as minimum as 5%. Okay. Right. So you get into the house for 5% down, you do the renovations. Now you have a $170,000 mortgage loan. Again, the value here is the ability to sell the home and liquidate the asset at the drop of a hat. So if you got into a bad situation and you sold the home for 10% less than market and you sold it for 195, you're still making profit.
You're still ahead. Yeah.
So there's the opportunity to get in low cash. Now, the problem therein might be that the rental value might not supersede the mortgage price. So for a $170,000 loan, maybe we're looking at $1,800 a month, $1,700 a month. It really will depend on the taxes at that point. We might be able to get as low as $1,500 a month, depending on the taxes. And that property may rent for somewhere in the range of like 19 to 21. Just in my head, I'm thinking a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, simple.
And where and in terms of the areas, where are you finding those deals versus, you know, that area, again, the waterfront area? Canton, I think you said.
We're targeting Canton, Federal Hill, Fells Point. We're moving a little bit farther away from the more desirable locations. Obviously, the more desirable the location, the higher the price, right? Same thing with Manhattan. But it really will depend. But again, we can do that out in the county. We can do that farther closer to Towson. We get into some rental regulations when we get outside of the city. So that's something to keep in mind. And you want to make sure that you hire a realtor that has that knowledge. But for the majority of these people, they're looking for Baltimore City. They're looking for the opportunity at a low investment. Another thought process would be investing a larger sum of cash, but maybe buying something that would not qualify for a mortgage. I want to be delicate how we term these things, but let's call them lower income areas, where you might be able to buy something for as low as $30,000, $50,000, $70,000. Your rent roll is going to be a lot different. Your profit is going to be a lot higher, but your risk is going to be a lot higher. Your tenant quality may not be as high as being in an area like Canton or downtown in Federal Hill or in the downtown sector, but your profit margin is going to be higher accordingly. A really great home for what I think the majority of investors looking from afar should be looking for is something that's going to value at a 75% equity. So what I mean by that is if we were to strictly take a very simple math, the rental is $2,000 a month. 75% of that rental is my monthly cost. So $1,500 a month. So in an ideal world, I'm collecting $2,000 a month, and I'm spending $1,500 on my property management, my mortgage, and my oversight. So that when I go to qualify for the next home, those two values of debt to income balance each other out. Yeah. And the farther we go to a higher debt ratio or a lower debt ratio, the more we're going to really be able to see profit and loss when we go to analyze our portfolio over the 20 years. If we go to a higher debt ratio, we're going to have limited capital. If we go to a lower debt ratio, we might have a heightened capital, but we might have a higher risk. Right. And so it really does depend on what your appetite is. It does depend on what your cash out of pocket looks like and your long-term goal.
This is really, this information is really great. As I said, the investment opportunities in the city, it's hard in Manhattan. It's hard to find these things with those numbers, obviously. So, oh, you hear yourself.
I didn't mean to do that. I was just trying to check. Somebody had made a comment. I did not mean to do that.
It's like, yeah, this technology is definitely like, it's like mission control here, right? Like this is the command center.
And it's such a learning experience because I felt like we were so technologically advanced with our business in general that this has been like a curve that I was not prepared for.
But you know what? We're working through it. Thankfully, there aren't too many options for us, right?
Right. True.
So, okay. So now do you have places you want to share? Because I will have to kind of switch the screens out a little bit.
Sure. I will share with you our client's $400,000 investment. That was the one that I pulled up.
Okay. So let me just switch this out. I'm going to remove you as the panelist.
Oh,
I know. I'm sorry. People just hang tight. Change role to attendee. Now I've got, oh boy, now I've got two of you. Let's try this one first. Is this the right one? No. Wrong. Same one. All right, hold on. More. The problem is they're named the same thing. Promote the panel. Okay. I think this is the right. Yes. Okay, good. We're at a different angle here, so I must be doing something right. Okay. You want to talk just so I can hear you? Oh, allowed to talk. I think I got it. Oh no. Come back. Hold on. Disable talking. Okay. Can I hear you on this device?
yes, you can.
Okay, perfect. Oh, I hear yeah, you gotta turn something down.
Whoa, that's not good.
Yeah.
Let's take that away. How about that?
Yeah, just take it away.
There we go.
You just turn it off, you'll be fine.
I did.
Okay. All right, so we're back to it. So we are, you're sharing your screen with some unique opportunities.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's turn that guy down, share that screen. Ooh, can you see my bright MLS screen?
I can, yeah.
All right, let's make that a little bit bigger for you guys.
Yeah, make it bigger for sure.
Better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's start here. Let's do a little bit of.
If you could go even bigger, like we see a lot of the white space on the side. I don't know if that's possible to like just, okay.
Oh, you know what? I know what
happened.
Going.
Keep going. There you go. All right, perfect. Okay.
All right. So this is our neighborhood here, right? We were talking about Canton. Mm-hmm. So this is our Canton neighborhood, just south of the park here along the waterfront. And over here is going to be Fells Point. When I try to screen share a little bit bigger, it goes away. You can't see my map.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
No, you cannot see my map. It's okay. So O'Donnell Street and Linwood is kind of the center of Canton. And you can see this house located at 3030 O'Donnell, right down the street here, is going to be right along the main drag, very desirable area for a prospective tenant. So at the purchase price of $420,000, it was a little bit high. And I was even talking with the buyer, the investor, and making sure that he really completely understood what he was buying. And he said, no, this is going to be a good idea. It's going to be a good equity. And over the long play, this is not a short-term play. This is a long play. I'm going to gain the value as the market continues to appreciate.
Okay. Can you turn that dinging your phone off?
It's not my phone. It's my computer.
Oh, okay. It's okay.
I can mute it. No, I can't, because then I mute you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's okay.
I wish I could turn off my messages, but I can't. At any rate, so we're looking at a 4-bedroom rental unit. And so the way to think about this in Baltimore is, what would each individual tenant pay in a shared tenant space? So if we had 4 roommates, what would each roommate pay to live in this house? And the key to this house is going to be super cute, but that's not what I'm showing you right now. This parking pad. So with the 3-car parking pad, it's like living in downtown Manhattan and coming home every day to your personal private parking space, right? It's the same thing here. People covet these parking pads like crazy. And this parking pad with space for 3-car parking and 4 bedrooms, it's almost like everyone in the house gets a bonus space. So the way that we would look at this from a rental perspective is, if each tenant would pay to be in this localized area with 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom, or 1 bedroom and 1 shared bathroom, maybe they would pay $850, $800 a month, $700 for a shared bathroom, things like that. But then how much would they pay to get the parking pad? Would they pay an extra 100? Would they pay an extra 150? So that's where we really came up to this 4 bedrooms. Let's create a 3 full bathroom opportunity with 3 parking spots. This is amazing. So we're going to be able to charge $3,400 and keep tenants pretty consistently, or we could charge 36 and maybe we'd lose tenants pretty, year over year over year. Tenant turnover is one of our biggest expenses in property management, as you know. So when we have the opportunity to capture tenants with these 3-car parking, which is obviously the attraction for them, that's where we're going to be able to create value.
Yeah.
So the house itself is cute, but to be honest, it's just another house. I mean, there's nothing special about this house.
But your tenants are students. You're planning for students.
So these would be people that we'd be looking at as post-college. Maybe they're young professionals. Maybe it's a young family. Maybe we're looking at, successful people that want the additional parking, that are willing to pay a premium for it. We're not primarily looking at student housing because we're not in an area where universities and colleges are local, right? So I think people are coming to the area to get to the university, and then they're moving to this area because post-college, this is where they want to live.
Got it. But you're still looking at it from per room. Like, like obviously a couple with a few kids, the kids are not paying per room, but I see.
Yeah. And I think that more commonly those families, the people that stay in the city, the people that stay in these locations end up buying. They end up making it their first home purchase. These homes, these good rental opportunities are more of the per room, let's find 3 or 4 potential roommates that will share resident housing. We're not individually leasing to them, which I hear a lot, room leases. We're not doing that. We're leasing the full property for 1 lease term with all 4 tenants being held accountable to that full, in this case, $3,400 a month.
And there's a tenant in there now, or no?
There is a tenant in there now. They purchased this home a little while ago and they placed a tenant fairly quickly. Again, a lot of desire for that parking about a block away from everything that everybody wants to do in Canton.
And the current tenant, I mean, how often does a tenant come with the purchase?
Not as commonly. Tenants transferring with purchase happen more in the outlying areas where the investors are unloading an investment opportunity and they're selling the tenant as a equity play. In this area, we're seeing more of the properties that were previously tenant owned or tenant occupied becoming, a new opportunity, whether it's for a first time home buyer, whether it's for a move up buyer from a smaller property, or for an investor like this one. The majority of properties that will sell in this area in Canton will sell vacant. Very rarely are there homes that are occupied that are being sold. So whether they're being sold to an investor or to an owner occupant does not matter. They're roughly selling for the same price.
Okay. Cool. So this is, you said, how much is this one? Can you scroll down a little bit and share some of the details?
Yeah. So this one was $420,000.
Okay.
And that was the closed price. It's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom property located in Baltimore City. Let's see, there we go. Parking. That's what everybody has to say. We can take this information off of there. Anyway, what we're looking for as an investor, in my opinion, is we're looking for some basic necessities. Obviously, we want roughly well-maintained central air conditioning, not in terrible shape, not something that's super old. We want something that's been maintained and modernized over the years, but it does not have to be brand new, because again, we're going to be bringing this thing back to life. Oftentimes our investors will place the first tenant as quickly as possible to get some positive cash flow. And then after the first tenant will move, then they will invest the money to renovate or paint cabinets or put on granite countertops, adding value to the property, but they ultimately want to get that cash flow rolling. So they want something that's roughly what we would call rent ready. Right. This property.
Can you show us some of the photos again?
Sorry. Thank you for keeping me on pace. So this property, this is a beautiful walk-in. You have the curved staircase, which is obviously from back in the early 1900s, an open dining space. And this being an alley unit, we have all of the natural sunlight coming in. And this is where we got into the kitchen, which you can see is not modern. We would not say that this is dated, but it's not 2000s.
It looks nice to me. The cabinets and the stainless steel, like the floor is whatever, but.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I totally agree. But if we were to market this property against other homes that were similar, that did not have 3-car parking, it would never sell for $420. This would probably sell for maybe the mid 370s without the parking, maybe even lower. The kitchen was a sore spot, even for this investor. And basically what they said was, let's get it rent ready. Let's get a tenant in here and we can paint the cabinets or replace the kitchen in its entirety over time.
Well, you took really great pictures.
That was Missy in this case. It was not me. So this is a bedroom. It's a common size bedroom in our area. I know that in New York, you guys have lots of tight spaces, so you're relatively used to it.
Yeah.
In the area that I live, about 20 minutes outside of downtown, people would scoff at a bedroom this size. But this is what downtown is. You get 13 and 14 foot wide row homes at the maximum. So your bedrooms are 13 feet wide. They're not any bigger than that.
Wow.
This one is about 12'6". So it's large enough for a queen or a king and a dresser or a wardrobe. And that's about all we have.
Coming from the city, I'm like, wow, that's actually fairly average.
Right. And it's amazing because we show properties, we tour with a number of clientele, and oftentimes their parents will come with them. Right. So someone that might be from more of a suburban area of Baltimore, maybe from Midtown, Pennsylvania, and they're coming to tour properties and their parents are like, well, this is really small for the price. Because they're just not used to it. And I totally respect that.
And this is, I think I read, how many square feet total?
So I think it's 1,700. Let's go.
Yeah. So that's not terrible. There's the dimensions right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not terrible. All right, cool. Well, it looks like it's in good shape. Like you said, it's rent ready.
Right.
And they can put the value in later.
Right. And there's little things that we can do. You see this door here going to the exterior. It actually goes to nothing. It's a Juliet balcony. But what it's designed for is for a rooftop deck. And that's where we get into our real value. I'm not going to be able to pull this up quickly enough for you, but I'm just going to talk about it anyway. Rooftop deck is our real value. That's where we're really getting the most opportune use of the space. where we can get out on our rooftop and we can see the space that we're looking at. Let's see here. I know what I'm looking for, so sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's going to take me a half a second. Sorry, another half a second because I didn't put in the right information. There we go. Beautiful. So remember that renovation opportunity that I was talking about before?
Yep.
This is a direct comp for that opportunity. Make that a little bit smaller.
So that the other one was 420-ish.
No, that was the rental opportunity that we just looked at.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If we go to that rehab, the investment opportunity where we were going to buy it for about 195 and we were going to sell it for 520.
Mm-hmm.
That's this home, right?
Got it.
So this one sold for 515 and it sold about 2 weeks ago. And the value here, kitchens, bathrooms, very beautiful. I'm going to show you the rooftop deck. That's where I'm going. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
So in that rental opportunity, we had that door to the Juliet balcony, and it's designed to create this rooftop deck. That one. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So the roof deck is really desirable. And if you know anything about Baltimore, we're very familiar with our Natty Boh, right? National Bohemian is a beer that used to be brewed here in Baltimore. It is no longer, but the Natty Boh Stein is right there. It overlooks all of Canton.
Wow.
Right? The opportunity to have this rooftop deck as an additional outdoor space is just tremendous. Nice. So when we looked at that investment with the Juliet balcony, it was like, well, in the future, we can spend the $15,000 or $20,000 to put this rooftop on. Now we're even further adding value. So we have parking and a rooftop. Buyers pay through the nose for that.
That's awesome.
So it's about not only seeing the value, but also seeing the potential.
The potential. Yeah. Yeah. And I know, like, at least in Manhattan, you have to ask about the air rights. So who owns the air above the building?
Right.
Same thing here?
No. In Maryland, when you buy your little slice of pie, right? So you own everything to the core of the earth, everything to the outer atmosphere. Of course, we give out riparian rights to planes and, government stuff.
Minor things like that.
We own it, right?
Yeah. Cool. All right. Do you want to share your screen and we will
Yes, I would love to.
This up? You did great. So
thank you so much.
Thank you to Michael for being here today, and to all of our viewers. I hope you got some really great information from that. I certainly learned a lot. Those roof decks, that opportunity is great. And hard to come by, I guess. So, so if you have any questions, please let us know. Again, Karen Stone from New York City, Michael Frank from Baltimore. And we will see you next time. Thank you for joining me, Michael. So appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah.